So game 3, which was Monday, it kind of went the way that I thought. I was expecting the Spurs to punch. Again, they have been a team that has showed up when their back is against the wall and in desperate measures. We saw that a lot throughout the course of the Thunder game. And more so than the team responding, I thought that that was a real MVP, finals MVP level performance of Vic. And though we are in the driver's seat, though we still have control of the series, though I am still confident in the team overall, I won't lie, that game 3 win for the Spurs does start to open up a little can of worms of worry for me. And I think it should be the same case for Knicks fans. Not that you completely lose confidence in the team winning the championship, not that you should doubt us winning the championship, anything like that. But I think the high of a 2-0 kind of just fell here. Now it feels like, there's some things starting to creep up in the back of the mind if we're being completely honest. And it starts with Vic. The game 3 performance from Vic was crazy because he did something that I don't know why he doesn't do all the time. And to see him doing in game 3 makes me worried that he may just do it for the rest of the series, where he cemented himself in the paint. The first 3 or 4 baskets that he had were all inside of the paint. The last one in that stretch was like an and one. He started the game 4-4, completely just dominant and cementing himself there. And I think that set the tone for the rest of the game. And there were so many different instances in this game where you saw what a lot of us have talked about for the last couple of years with Wemby, where it's like if he's 7'5", if you're Fox, Castle, Harper, or any guard that he's playing with, you really can throw it into the heavens blindly, and he'll just go catch it and find a way to put it in the basket. Those type of things were happening in game 3. It was a lot less settling, right? It was a lot less facing up, holding the ball, being indecisive. He felt a lot more decisive in this game. He felt more confident, more sure of himself. And with him starting in the paint, it allowed them to get off into such a good rhythm and a good run. And I think the Spurs have been nearly unbeatable throughout these playoffs when they've had such strong starts, especially on the road. I thought they did that so well in the OKC Thunder series, where they were facing this championship team with the 2-time back-to-back MVP, and they were having so many good starts. And I even remember after the series, a few of the Thunder fans that I know, they talked a lot about that, where it's like, man, we wish Mark Dayton was able to find ways to allow the Thunder to have better starts, because the Spurs come out, they punch you first, and now you're trying to recover from that punch the rest of the game. And it felt like the Knicks were in the same boat. Now, don't get me wrong, after the 33-22 start, the Knicks did respond incredibly in that second quarter, where we outscored them by, like 18 points. I think it was 42-24. Really, really good job. But after that, in the second half, I just felt like the Spurs reached another gear defensively. They allowed us to have that one quarter, and they locked in. And that's the name of the game for the San Antonio Spurs. We as the Knicks have to find a way to alleviate some of this pressure. Jalen Brunson is the captain. He's the guy because he is relentless, no matter how often or how inconsistent the jump shot has been or the scoring is from an efficiency standpoint. He continues to have his pedal to the metal. And I think that allows the Knicks to have a certain fight, because there's a certain pressure that he's without a doubt bringing. And you always are going to have to account for him. You always are going to have to respect him. You always have to show bodies on him, because his mentality doesn't dip, whether he's 15 of 21 or if he's 6 of 21. He's bringing the same type of tone every single possession. He's always looking to score. He's always looking to be aggressive, and he's never allowing his confidence to waver too much for him to take his foot off the pedal. And I think scores and number one options, they all have to be cut from that type of cloth. Whether that's Anthony Edwards, whether that's Shea, whether that's Brunson now. We've kind of seen it throughout the course of these playoffs against the Spurs. It constantly opens up the game, and I think that's why a guy like OG has been able to have some success throughout the course of this series and the playoffs. I think that's why in the first 2 games, Mikal Bridges was able to thrive. You see a guy like Landry Shamet didn't have the greatest game 3, but prior to that, he was a rock star for the bench. And it starts with Brunson. Outside of that, though, and with that aggression, we do have to get back to the things that got us here. And his aggression was paired with Karl-Anthony Towns being a extreme focal point in our offense. There is a stat out there that the Knicks are 12-1 in these playoffs when Karl-Anthony Towns has 4 or more assists. Last game, in game 3, he only had 1. He has not scored a single point in the fourth quarter of any of the 3 games so far in his finals, which I think is another issue. And you saw it in game 3 a lot, where everything just became stagnant. And as great as Brunson is and as talented as he is, and as much as he's shown us, he can be a hero on any given time and any given moment. He can win us the game and be a hero. But against a team like the San Antonio Spurs, who has been able to completely remove some of the best scorers in our game, the variety of offense has to come back into play. And I'm looking for that in game 4, where Carlton Towns finds a way to be aggressive, finds the way to insert himself, whether that's as a passer, whether that's as a floor spacer, knocking down 3-point opportunities, whether that's taking advantage of mismatches. The interesting thing that the Spurs did in game 3 was allow Wemby to not have the exclusive matchup defensively against Carlton Towns, but instead allow him to roam on the Josh Harts of the world, or whoever is on the floor that ain't Cat or one of the premier outside shooters. And it does kind of shrink the floor because now everybody is constantly trying to account for where Vic is. There was a play that's engraved in my brain from the first half where it started off on as like a OG drive, and Wemby was there, and he made OG go from driving it to dumping it off to Hart. As Hart gets the dump off, he obviously doesn't want to go up on Vic. He dribbles out. He throws it to the corner. Left corner is Mikal Bridges. Vic from the paint recovers out to the three-point line, forces Mikal to hesitate and try to do like a step-back three-point shot that Wemby ends up getting the tip block on, and the Spurs are able to go the other way. To me, that one defensive stance showed the impact that Wemby has way above the box score. The box score is going to say he has a block. But in that one possession, to me, he had about 3 blocks, right? He cut off the OG initial layup attempt. He cut off the dump down pass to Hart, which would, against anybody else, if that was Luke Cornett, OG goes up with the layup. And even if he doesn't, he dumps it off to Hart. Hart goes up on Cornett, right? Against Wemby, those are 2 shots that the Knicks say we cannot take, which is almost as good as two blocks. And then to kick out to the corner for a step back 3 is just a very low percentage three-point shot for the Knicks anyway. And to me, it's 3 stops in one possession for Wemby. And a lot of those type of possessions happened in game 3. And a lot of it comes from the stagnant offense, the ball not flipping and flying everywhere. The thing we did a good job throughout the course of the playoffs and other series and in the first 2 games of constantly making that Spurs defense shift, right? You see a guy like Brunson, you see a guy like OG, you see a guy like Mikal, even Cat, putting pressure on the paint, getting 2 feet in the paint, making that defense rotate, kicking the ball, rotate, swing, and creating these big, large shifts in the Spurs defense and making them have to come out, and we just beat them off the dribble and continue to open up. There was a play, a few plays with Landry Shamet or Mikal or even OG or Anunoby, some of his 3-point looks, where we passed the ball like 4 or 5 times like a high school team. You know what I mean? Like I want 4 or 5 passes before we get up a shot. And we just constantly made that defense shift and rotate to the point where at the end of the possessions, we had wide open looks. And you just didn't get that type of feel from game 3. And you have to credit the Spurs for that defensive effort. There is a stat that I read today that says through 3 games, the Knicks have taken 93 shots in the last 7 seconds of the shot clock. That's more than they took in the conference semifinals against Philadelphia, which was 68 shots over 4 games, or in the conference finals against the Cleveland Cavaliers, where they took 90 of those shots over 4 games. So already through 3 games, we have 93 shots in the last 7 seconds of the shot clock. The Knicks took 35 late clock shots in game 3 alone. That was tied for the 3rd most shots in the last 7 seconds of the shot clock for any team in any game this season, which is crazy. Like, for us to be this late in the game, like late in the season, we're down to our last, 4 or so games, and the Knicks have some of these, like, we're legitimately being tasked to make something happen in the last 7 seconds of the shot clock. That's a testament to the Spurs defense. I think that's a big testament to Wemby, because the presence in the paint makes a lot of guys overthink and be conscious of where he's at. And it makes us, second guess some of the shots around the rim, which means you're kicking it out and you're putting somebody like OG or Josh Hart in a position to where they're trying to generate or create a shot. And, they don't have the bags of a Jalen Brunson. So now we're draining the clock, and we're throwing up. Those late clock shots are some of the toughest shots to make. And though we've made some throughout the course of the playoffs, we have been a lot better when we're faster, when we're efficient, and when we're turning them over and getting into the flow of things with a sense of urgency. And I thought those two things were significant for us. And hopefully in game 4, we can see a big difference. I think they only turned the ball over 8 times. It's a Spurs team that we've seen turn the ball over almost 20 times, you know what I mean, in games throughout the course of the playoffs. And so I think we got to turn up our defensive pressure. We got to put Cat in a position to be involved. And in our back pocket, and I don't know if this is a big prediction because Stephon Castle, Dylan Harper, these guys have been locked in defensively. We have not had the Jalen Brunson game. We've had Jalen Brunson moments to help us win 2 games, but I think Brunson is shooting like 37% from the field, 22% from 3 or something crazy like that. He's got the same amount of assists as turnovers. He's got like 82 points on 81 shots or something like that. Like, it's not having, from an efficiency standpoint, the greatest series ever. I believe the Brunson game is still in the back pocket. And it could be very, very game-changing if that game was tonight. The last game at home before we head back to San Antonio could take a commanding 3-1 series lead, which I can't even tell you what the emotions would be if we were that close. I'm still trying to figure out if I'm going to fly back to San Antonio for game 5. I will assure you that if the Knicks win tonight's game and they have a chance to close it out in San Antonio, that makes my decision and what I'm trying to do a lot more easier, right? I'm fully committed to making that trip back to San Antonio if I can get a chance to watch the Knicks win the championship in person. But, yeah, those are our keys to the games. I'm expecting the Spurs to come out with the same level of intensity. I'm expecting them to be on one accord defensively as they were in game 3. That's probably the best we've seen the Spurs defend. And, hey, as long as they got the 7-5 guy on their side and he's locked in, we've got to bring our best punch. We have more.
Hit subscribe for more news, highlights, and analysis from the NBA on NBC.